far. You know, sugar attracts more flies, you know. What you need to do is find a way to coexist. Both groups coexist on the same deal. And so you got a couple of words that you need to remember real importantly. One is public use areas. If it's a public use area, then you ought to be able to use it with your hobby. Everybody else is using it with their hobby. You should have access to it. Otherwise, it's called discrimination. The other one is that designated areas. When you're having problems or they're worried about you being a renegade all over the property, you say, well, designate the areas we can use it. The beaches and the water, the campgrounds or the picnic area. Designate the spot. That leaves it in their hands to do the choosing, where you're going to be at, what you're going to do. Okay? You couldn't offer a better deal to them. You're not making any decision. They're making it for you. So offer the designation areas. Also, let's start changing the word holes to debits. Debits like debits or debits like a golf club does. Because if you ever watch anybody pound a golf club in a park, they dig deeper than I do for most of my coins. It wasn't a sand pit, but next week it is. You know, because this guy's playing golf out there. Let's change the terminology a little bit. Let's get away from treasure hunter to metal detectors. You know, it's an instant flag on some people, especially in the government, especially if they went through an archaeological school or through an environmentalist school. When you say treasure hunter, flag goes up the pole faster than you can run it up yourself. You're a bad guy. You know, where did they get programmed like that? But in school. Yeah, actually in school where they're at, they get programmed like that. If you want insurance to your profession, they don't want the treasure hunter out there making better discoveries than they are. But in fact, as it says in that archaeology sheet that I just passed around, thoughts on archaeology, in the last 100 years, or the last 50 years, I guess, when metal detectors came out, the amateur has made more and better archaeological significant finds than the profession itself. And how did they know that? But we turned it over to them. We gave it to them. If we were so secretive, how do they know that we've made these finds? How do we know that they found out about us donating to museums and stuff like that? It didn't hurt us to donate something to a museum. Also, let's see, we need to stop, well, I guess you just need to preach more about the hand tools. You got to understand, we have to educate that group. We know what we're talking about when we say a trowel. Is a trowel a great big long sharpshooter shovel? What to them? They don't know. We're going to have to educate them. We're going to have to tell them how that metal detector works. When I went back to the Corps of Engineers about 4 years ago in Washington, D.C. and sat down with the heads of the Corps of Engineers. It was actually Mr. Tabb and Mr. Lewis. They were directors. One's director of resources, the other was director of recreational use of the Corps of land. Mr. Tabb is the one there now. Mr. Lewis is retired. I showed them, and you try to get through that metal detector at the front door with a big long aluminum scoop. How do you use that thing, you know? You have to explain it at the front door before you can get in the door and show it to Mr. Lewis. But when I went in there, I showed them how a scoop looks and how it digs, how it recovers what it digs up. The sand recovers going through the holes of the scoop. And the reason I did that is because we were having half the nation under the Corps of Engineers project offices, directors going, no, you can't metal detect in the water. It specifically says beach areas in the original metal detecting policy you have with the U.S. It does not say waters like that attached to it. And the other half would allow it. So you had different rules just about anywhere you went across the United States with the Corps of Engineers. So I immediately saw we're going to have to uniform this. And you try walking in that office and knowing that you could get 50% chance you get it your way, 50% chance you ruin it for everybody. You know, half the nation's already ruined. you're going in for their half, but will you ruin it for everybody that's getting water out? I tell you what, I did some sweating on that one when I walked in there and sat down. And their answer was, I have some pages up here, matter of fact, we can pass it around. This is the results of that meeting. Their answer was that as far as they consider it, and both directors agreed, the water that is attached to a swimming beach is nothing more than beach covered in water. And metal detecting should be allowed. And that was it. I said, well, thank goodness I had a bunker going there, but I sure appreciate you guys feeling that way. But and at the bottom of that letter, you'll see where the Corps says that we appreciate your hobby group so much for sending one representative. I really didn't ask anybody, I just did it. I spent the money and I went. One representative represents you all, and by us sitting down at the table and working out our problems is the way to do it maturely. And I guarantee you the Corps of Engineers will not break that metal detecting policy. And they've had every government agency after them ever since for doing that policy. It's the biggest thorn we have across the nation with every state, every type of city government, is that the stinking Corps allows us to go out there, which owns 3 times more land than they do by far put together, and has 4 times or 10 times more archaeological sites than they have. Yet we've been there since 1982 without a single incident of any theft or robbery or destruction. See, that's a big hurt. They don't like that at all. The federal government and the city government, state governments all been trying to talk the Corps out of it. And I get an email every once in a while from Mr. Lewis, or actually Mr. Tabb now, saying, well, we heard from Washington State, they don't like our policy with you, but it doesn't make any difference to us. We know what's right. And they tell you in that letter, too, that they consider discrimination by not allowing us in. Designating the beaches, the swimming areas, as places that we can use that, the recreational areas and public use areas of the park. Now, you can get in trouble if you run across a lake on Corps land on the other side, and it's not a beach, it's not a recreational area. Sure, if somebody goes down there and fishes off the bank every once in a while, you get some fish hooks and weights, you can get in trouble because that's not what they designated. The rules on that and the actual permission for that is at my booth back there in that rack. I brought plenty of them for everybody if you want to pick up Corps of Engineers. It tells you the rules on the back, what you're supposed to do when you're there, and it gives you the original position that we got and policy we got with them in 1989. And that's still standing today, which I actually think is an absolute miracle with as many treasure hunters and loose nuts that we may have out there. The guys buying it hadn't got any ethics. I don't know how we've kept it this long, but praise the Lord we have. So that's an excellent. Okay, let me go through what you should do if you are hung up in one of these situations. Say they close the parks where you live, and you want to go see about it. What's my steps? What do I do? The thing that it's already happened to you. You don't know where the answer is. Well, you go to the Parks Department or to the mayor, whichever one you're seeing it advertised through. Parks Department, usually directly to the Parks Department, ask for a meeting. First question you need to ask is why the sudden ban? Been hunting there 20 years, why don't you ban the metal detecting process? You need an answer. You need to know why somebody decided that the park needed to be closed. What is the answer? Is the squirrels dropping out of the trees? Too many holes that you're finding? You can't control the armadillos while you're out there swinging the detector? What's the deal? Why did it get thrown out? Second one is you want to request, say I'm requesting a copy of any statute, codes, or regulations which prohibits the act of metal detecting in this area. It's your right. Freedom Act gives you the right to request that, and you can request it, and they have to give it to you in writing. If they don't, then they're not looking good in the eyes of the courtroom if you ever get that far with it. You can also say I'm requesting a copy of any policy, either formal or informal, that would prohibit metal detecting here. Now this